The moment the rebuild was finished, the silence around the workshop felt different. Not empty, but heavy, because this was no ordinary rebuild. This was a machine that had been broken, doubted, and nearly forgotten, now standing again with presence, power, and personality. A Rolls-Royce transformed, reshaped, reimagined. A project that demanded patience, sleepless nights, and relentless determination. But just as the dust settled and the engine purred with confidence, a new tension emerged. The very company that inspired the build wanted to see it. And suddenly, the story was no longer about whether the car worked. It became about something far more interesting. It became about who did it better. Because perfection can be manufactured, but passion cannot. From the outside, the rebuild looked flawless. The paint caught the light in a way that demanded attention. The stance felt aggressive yet elegant. Every line told a story of risk. Yet behind the polished finish was something Mansory could never replicate in a factory environment. The unpredictable journey that created it. This wasn't assembled in a controlled space with unlimited resources. It was built under pressure. It was corrected through trial and error. It was shaped by real-world problems, real-world decisions, and real-world consequences. And that difference changes everything. When Matt stood beside the car, he wasn't just looking at carbon fiber and chrome. He was looking at time, at effort, at mistakes turned into lessons. That emotional connection gave the car something intangible, something no design package could include. And that is where the quiet competition truly began. Because Mansory builds exclusivity, but Matt builds stories. The road trip across Europe turned the rebuild into something alive. Every mile added character. The racetrack in Spain exposed weaknesses, yes, but it also revealed something else. Courage. Taking a luxury machine completely outside its comfort zone was not about performance. It was about proving the build could survive reality. When the suspension dipped unexpectedly, it wasn't a disaster. It was a moment of understanding, a recalibration, a demonstration that knowledge matters more than reputation. In that moment, skill replaced branding. The heavy Rolls-Royce struggled through corners, but it didn't quit, and neither did the builder behind the wheel. That alone added authenticity. Factories test cars, but they rarely test emotion. Hey, both were being tested at the same time. As the journey moved toward Monaco, the contrast became even clearer. Luxury surrounded the car, yet the build felt different from the polished perfection parked along the streets. Those cars were designed to impress. This one was designed to be experienced. Fuel competitions, spontaneous races, and near misses with police turned the trip into something unpredictable. And unpredictability creates identity. Then came the dent, a small, frustrating imperfection. But ironically, it strengthened the narrative, because perfection is fragile, while experience is resilient. Instead of hiding the damage, it became part of the story, a reminder that this machine was living its life, not sitting still as a showpiece. That difference matters. And then, the mountains. Cold air, rooftop tent, freezing temperatures, conditions completely opposite of what a Rolls-Royce is designed for. Yet the car climbed higher, endured harsher environments, and survived the discomfort. That moment blurred the line between luxury and adventure. Mansory creates bold designs, but Matt created a bold experience. The car wasn't just seen, it was lived with. It witnessed laughter, exhaustion, and sunrise views above the clouds. These moments can't be engineered in a studio. When the journey finally reached Germany, the atmosphere changed instantly. The workshop represented precision, control, reputation. Walking into that environment meant facing the highest standards in the industry. And naturally, imperfections were found. Alignment issues, small details, minor flaws. But instead of undermining the build, it validated it. Because achieving near perfection without factory conditions is arguably more impressive than achieving it with unlimited resources. Watching professionals refine the car highlighted a fascinating truth. Mansory excels at flawless execution, but Matt excels at fearless creation. Even the unexpected wheel replacement created tension. It was a symbolic moment. Factory authority versus personal vision. Accepting the change meant acknowledging expertise. Questioning it meant protecting individuality. That balance defines the difference between craftsmanship and creativity. By the end of the inspection, the car looked sharper, cleaner, more refined. but the essence remained untouched. The journey still lived within it. The memories still echoed in every panel. The lessons still shape its presence. That is the one thing Matt Armstrong does better than Mansory. He creates meaning, because a factory can produce identical perfection again and again. But a builder who risks everything creates something that cannot be duplicated. The rebuild wasn't just mechanical. It was emotional. It carried the weight of uncertainty, the thrill of risk, and the satisfaction of overcoming setbacks. Standing beside the finished car, the decision to keep it felt inevitable. Selling it would erase the narrative. Keeping it preserved the transformation. From damaged luxury vehicle to living symbol of growth, the journey proved that luxury alone does not create value. Experience does. Imperfections do. Risks do. And most importantly, passion does. As the engine idled softly and the reflections danced across its bodywork, one realization became impossible to ignore. Mansory may build cars that look extraordinary, but Matt builds cars that become unforgettable. And in a world obsessed with perfection, sometimes the most powerful thing you can create is a story that perfection alone could never tell. Before the keys were even toned, before the engine settled into that quiet, confident idle, the tension already existed. Not loud, not obvious, but real, because this was never just about a rebuilt luxury car. This was about identity, about proving that passion-driven craftsmanship could stand beside a name known around the world for extreme exclusivity. And when word came that Mansory wanted to see the car, the project transformed overnight. It was no longer just a rebuild. It became a silent comparison, a question without anyone saying it out loud. Who truly understood the car better, the brand that defined perfection, or the builder who gave it a second life? That question hung in the air as the Rolls-Royce sat under workshop lights. Every reflection in the paint felt like a reminder of the hours spent correcting flaws. Every panel told a story of trial, adjustment, and persistence. This wasn't a vehicle assembled from a catalog. It was something shaped by decisions. Some right, some wrong, but all real. And that reality gave it something unique, authenticity. Factories operate with certainty. Measurements are precise. Parts arrive flawless. Processes repeat. But independent rebuilding lives in uncertainty. You discover problems one bolt at a time. You learn through mistakes. You adapt, and that difference changes the meaning of the final result. Because when something is created under pressure, it carries emotion. The first miles across Spain revealed this immediately. The car wasn't being transported carefully on a trailer. It was driven, pushed, tested. The racetrack moment alone said everything about the mindset behind the build. Taking a heavy luxury machine onto a circuit wasn't logical. It wasn't efficient, but it was honest. It showed confidence in the work. It exposed a suspension issue, yes, but it also exposed capability. Recalibrating the system trackside wasn't just a repair. It was proof of understanding. That is where the contrast became clearer. Mansory focuses on visual drama and engineered perfection, but Matt focused on functional resilience. One builds to impress. The other builds to endure. The journey toward Monaco laid more personality onto the car. Long highways, friendly rivalries, fuel competitions. The Rolls-Royce wasn't just being admired, it was participating. It was part of a living experience. And every unexpected moment, even the scare with police lights in the mirror, deepened the narrative. Luxury cars often exist in controlled environments. This one lived in unpredictability. When the dent appeared, it felt like a setback, but in reality, it became a defining moment. Because perfection is fragile, one small impact can ruin it. But a car built through challenges doesn't lose value from a small scar. Instead, it gains character. The reaction to the dent showed something important: confidence. If you rebuild the entire car once, a dent becomes just another chapter. Monaco itself highlighted the contrast between appearance and substance. Surrounded by hypercars and flawless showpieces, the rebuilt Rolls-Royce still stood out. Not because it was the most expensive, not because it was the most polished, but because it had presence. It carried a narrative that no showroom vehicle could match. It wasn't just another luxury machine, it was a survivor. Then came the mountains. Cold air, rooftop tents, freezing nights. A Rolls-Royce in conditions completely opposite to its intended purpose. Yet that's exactly what made the moment powerful. Luxury became secondary. Experience became primary. Watching the sunrise after a harsh night added emotional value no design package could ever include. The car wasn't just transporting people, it was part of their memory. And this is where the difference sharpened again. Mansory creates exclusivity through materials and design. Matt created exclusivity through experience. One is visible, the other is felt. Arriving in Germany shifted the tone. The workshop represented precision at the highest level. Walking through rows of perfectly crafted vehicles emphasized the expectations. Every detail mattered. Every millimeter counted. Naturally, the experts noticed imperfections, slight misalignments, small finishing differences. But those flaws told their own story. They proved the car wasn't built in ideal conditions. It was built in reality. Watching professionals refine the details highlighted a fascinating contrast. The brand perfected execution. The builder perfected persistence. And persistence often requires more courage than precision. When the wheels were replaced without warning, it created a symbolic moment. It wasn't just about aesthetics. It represented authority versus individuality. Accepting the change meant trusting expertise. Questioning it meant defending personal vision. That tension is the heart of craftsmanship. It's not about who is right. It's about balancing improvement with identity. Standing beside the car afterward, the transformation felt complete. But not because everything was flawless. It felt complete because the journey was embedded in the machine. From racetrack struggles to mountain camping, from dents to refinements, every moment added depth. That is the one thing Matt Armstrong does better than Mansory. He builds connection. A factory can reproduce perfection endlessly, but it cannot reproduce the same journey twice. This Rolls-Royce carried history. It carried risk. It carried growth. And those elements made it irreplaceable. The decision to keep the car made perfect sense. Selling it would mean reducing it to numbers. Keeping it preserved the meaning. It wasn't just a luxury vehicle anymore. It was proof of evolution. Proof that dedication can stand beside reputation. As the final reflections moved across the bodywork and the engine hummed quietly, one truth became undeniable. Perfection impresses, but passion endures. And in the silent space between those two ideas, this rebuilt Rolls-Royce found its identity. Because in the end, the most powerful builds aren't the ones that look perfect. They are the ones that tell a story no one else can recreate. There was a moment, quiet and almost unnoticed, when the entire meaning of the build shifted. It didn't happen during the final polish. It didn't happen inside the workshop. It happened somewhere on the open road, when the rebuilt Rolls-Royce settled into a smooth cruise and everything simply worked. No warning lights. No strange noises. Just calm confidence. That was the moment the project stopped being a challenge and became a statement. Because the car wasn't just rebuilt, it was proven. And that is something even Mansory rarely demonstrates publicly. Their cars arrive perfect, but they rarely show the struggle behind that perfection. In contrast, this build displayed every step. The uncertainty, the adjustments, the trial and error. That transparency created trust. And trust is more powerful than perfection. When Matt Armstrong drove through Spain, the environment itself felt symbolic. Warm sunlight reflecting off fresh paint. Long open highways allowing suspension to settle naturally. Every mile tested alignment, balance, and durability. There were no technicians waiting nearby. No safety net. Just confidence in the work. That confidence separated the build from traditional luxury modifications. This wasn't designed only to look aggressive. It had to survive reality. Taking the car to a racetrack pushed that idea further. A Rolls-Royce is engineered for effortless comfort, not aggressive cornering. Yet the decision to drive it hard revealed something deeper about the builder's mindset. It wasn't about lap times. It was about belief. Belief that the work done underneath the body panels could handle stress. When the suspension dropped unexpectedly, it could have been a failure. Instead, it became a demonstration of understanding. Recalibrating the system trackside showed technical knowledge beyond simple cosmetic modification. This is where the silent comparison strengthened again. Mansory transforms aesthetics at an elite level, but Matt transformed capability under unpredictable conditions. One focuses on controlled outcomes. The other thrives in uncontrolled environments. The road toward Monaco added emotional layers. The group's playful fuel competition might have seemed small, but it revealed something important. The car wasn't isolated. It wasn't treated like a fragile showpiece. It was part of the experience. Laughter, competition, and long conversations filled the cabin. Those moments cannot be engineered. They happen naturally, and they give the machine personality. When the dent appeared, the reaction defined the philosophy behind the build. There was no panic, no attempt to hide it, just acceptance, because a car built through challenges doesn't fear imperfections. Instead, imperfections reinforce authenticity. That dent represented real use, real life, real memories. Monaco itself highlighted a fascinating contrast. Expensive cars lined the streets, each polished to perfection, yet many of them lacked individuality. They were rare, but not personal. The rebuilt Rolls-Royce felt different. It wasn't just admired, it was discussed. People noticed its presence, its stance, its uniqueness, and most importantly, its story. Leaving Monaco for the mountains pushed the narrative into unexpected territory. Cold temperatures, rooftop tents, and freezing wind created discomfort. Yet that discomfort added depth. Luxury became irrelevant. Experience became everything. Watching the sunrise over snow-covered peaks while a Rolls-Royce sat quietly nearby felt surreal. That moment blurred boundaries. A luxury car surviving adventure. A rebuild turning into a memory. This is where the difference becomes undeniable. Mansory creates vehicles designed to impress instantly. Matt created a vehicle that grows more impressive over time. Because every mile adds value that money cannot buy. Arriving in Germany brought tension back. The workshop environment represented ultimate precision. Bright lighting, immaculate floors, perfectly aligned vehicles. Walking into that space meant confronting the highest expectations. When the team identified small imperfections, it wasn't surprising, but it also highlighted the difficulty of independent craftsmanship. Achieving near perfection without factory conditions is arguably more impressive than achieving perfection with unlimited resources. Watching professionals refine the details felt like a masterclass. Paint corrections, alignment adjustments, finishing touches. Each improvement elevated the car visually, but the essence remained untouched. The journey still defined it. The unexpected wheel swap created a moment of reflection. It symbolized the difference between authority and individuality. Should the builder accept the brand's vision or maintain his own? That internal debate reflected the entire project's theme. Balance, learning without losing identity. Standing beside the finished car afterward, the transformation felt complete. Not because every detail matched factory standards, but because the car carried meaning. It represented growth. From damaged vehicle to refined statement. From uncertainty to confidence. That is the one thing Matt Armstrong does better than Mansory. He builds emotion into metal. A brand can engineer perfection, but it cannot engineer the feeling of overcoming setbacks. It cannot manufacture memories of freezing mountain nights or spontaneous highway races. It cannot replicate the pride of solving problems personally. Those elements belong only to the journey. The final decision to keep the car confirmed everything. Selling it would reduce it to value. Keeping it preserved its story. The car became more than transportation. It became a symbol, a reminder that passion-driven craftsmanship can stand beside global luxury names. As the engine idled quietly and reflections moved across the sculpted bodywork, the comparison faded into something more meaningful. It was no longer about who did it better in technical terms. It was about who created something unforgettable. And in that moment, the truth became clear. Perfection impresses for a moment, but passion leaves a legacy. The rebuilt Rolls-Royce wasn't just another modified luxury car. It was proof that the most powerful creations don't come from unlimited resources. They come from determination, risk, and belief. And sometimes, the greatest achievement isn't matching perfection. It's creating something that perfection alone could never replace. The deeper you look at the journey, the clearer the contrast becomes. This was never simply a comparison between a modified Rolls-Royce and a professional tuning house. It was a comparison between two philosophies. On one side, Mansory represented precision, branding, and control perfection. On the other side stood Matt Armstrong, a builder driven by curiosity, risk, and relentless persistence. And as the miles passed, the difference between those approaches became impossible to ignore. The rebuild itself had already proven something important. Taking a damaged luxury vehicle and returning it to life requires patience. But turning it into something bold, personal, and road-ready requires belief. Every bolt tightened, every panel aligned, every electrical issue solved. Each step added a layer of ownership. When a brand builds a car, it belongs to the brand. When an individual rebuilds it, it becomes part of them. That emotional investment cannot be replicated inside any factory. Driving across Europe turned the project into a moving narrative. Long highways tested reliability. Unexpected situations tested composure. The racetrack tested courage. The mountains tested endurance. Each challenge strengthened the bond between builder and machine. And with every challenge overcome, the car stopped being just a luxury object and became a symbol of resilience. One of the most revealing moments came when the Rolls-Royce struggled on the track. It felt heavy, awkward, almost out of place. But instead of avoiding that reality, Matt embraced it. He explained the issue, recalibrated the suspension, and kept going. That honesty mattered. It showed viewers that excellence isn't about hiding flaws, it's about understanding them. And that willingness to expose imperfection made the build more authentic than any flawless showroom reveal. Even the playful competition on the road added. Meaning, the fuel challenge wasn't about efficiency. It was about participation. The Rolls-Royce wasn't treated like something untouchable. It was part of the adventure. It raced, cruised, stopped, and laughed along with the group. These small moments gave the car personality. And personality is something no luxury package can deliver. When the dent appeared in Monaco, it could have ended the excitement. Instead, it became a reminder that real experiences leave marks. Perfect cars remain static. Lived-in cars evolve. That small imperfection represented miles traveled, risks taken, and memories created. And in a strange way, it made the car more valuable, not financially, but emotionally. The mountain camping added another unexpected dimension. A Rolls-Royce parked in freezing conditions, rooftop tents above, wind cutting through the night. It felt almost surreal. Yet this moment revealed the essence of the journey. Luxury was no longer the focus. Experience was. Watching the sunrise after a difficult night created a connection far deeper than any luxury hotel stay. And the car, quietly parked nearby, became part of that memory. By the time the group reached Germany, the tension had built naturally. Walking into the workshop of Mansory meant confronting the highest standards in automotive customization. Perfect lighting exposed every detail. Professionals examined every line. Small imperfections were identified quickly. But instead of weakening the project, this moment strengthened it. Because achieving near perfection without factory resources is an accomplishment in itself. Watching the experts refine the car revealed another truth. Brands' perfect execution. Independent builders' perfect determination. Both matter, but determination often carries more emotional weight. Every correction made in that workshop became part of the learning process. It wasn't about proving superiority. It was about growth. The unexpected wheel replacement highlighted the delicate balance between creativity and authority. Accepting the new design meant trusting professional vision. Questioning it meant protecting individuality. That decision reflected the heart of craftsmanship. Learning from experts while maintaining personal identity is one of the hardest things to achieve, and that balance defined the entire journey. Standing beside a completed car, the transformation felt profound. Not because the vehicle looked different, but because the builder had changed. The project began as a rebuild. It ended as a statement that passion-driven work can stand beside global luxury brands. A statement that imperfection can coexist with excellence. A statement that stories create value. That is the one thing Matt Armstrong does better than Mansory. He creates meaning through experience. Factories deliver flawless results, but they rarely deliver emotional journeys. This Rolls-Royce carried laughter from Spanish highways, tension from Monaco streets, silence from mountain mornings, and pride from a German workshop. Those elements cannot be engineered. They must be lived. The decision to keep the car felt inevitable. Selling it would erase a narrative. Keeping it preserved the transformation. The Rolls-Royce became more than transportation. It became a symbol of growth, risk, and persistence. As the engine idled softly, the reflections on the paint told a quiet story, not just of luxury, but of resilience, not just of modification, but of identity. The comparison between builder and brand faded into something more meaningful. It was no longer about who was technically better. It was about who created something unforgettable. Because in the end, perfection impresses the eye, but passion captures the heart. And long after flawless finishes are forgotten, the stories behind them continue to inspire. The longer the journey unfolded, the more the rebuilt Rolls-Royce began to represent something beyond craftsmanship. It became a conversation between two worlds. On one side stood Mansory, a name associated with extreme luxury, bold styling, and meticulous execution. On the other side was Armstrong, a builder whose strength was not unlimited resources, but determination and creativity. And as the miles passed, it became clear that this wasn't a battle of design. It was a battle of philosophy. From the very first stages of the rebuild, the difference was visible. Factory-level modifications rely on repeatable systems. Every measurement is planned. Every step is documented. But this project unfolded organically. One challenge led to another. Parts didn't always fit perfectly. Adjustments had to be made. And in that process, something unique emerged, a build shaped by real decisions rather than predetermined outcomes. That unpredictability added authenticity. Driving through Spain highlighted this authenticity. The car wasn't transported as a fragile showpiece. It was driven like a real machine. Long highways tested the suspension. Uneven roads tested alignment. Heat tested cooling systems. These were not controlled tests. They were real-world challenges. And each successful mile built confidence not just in the car, but in the builder. The racetrack moment deepened that narrative. A Rolls-Royce, heavy and designed for comfort, entering a circuit built for agility, felt almost contradictory. Yet that contradiction made the moment powerful. It wasn't about performance. It was about courage. The suspension issue that appeared didn't weaken the story. It strengthened it. Because solving a problem under pressure reveals more skill than avoiding the problem entirely. Recalibrating the system on the spot showed understanding beyond surface-level modification. This is where the quiet comparison sharpened again. Mansory delivers visual perfection. Matt delivered functional resilience. One focuses on the final image. The other focuses on the journey that creates it. The drive toward Monaco layered emotion onto the machine. Friendly competitions, spontaneous races, and long conversations transformed the car into part of the group's dynamic. It wasn't isolated. It participated. That sense of participation gave it personality. And personality is something no luxury catalog can provide. When the dent appeared, it became a turning point. Many would see it as damage. But in this context, it represented experience. The reaction to it revealed confidence. If you rebuild a car from serious damage, a small dent becomes just another chapter. That mindset separated this build from showroom perfection. It embraced reality. Monaco itself amplified the contrast. Surrounded by hypercars and flawless luxury vehicles, the rebuilt Rolls-Royce still commanded attention, not because it was the most expensive, but because it felt alive. Every line suggested history. Every detail hinted at a journey. People weren't just looking, they were wondering.